Welcome to the aerial view of the fitness industry, show number 6. And this show came about as many of you guys are working so hard in your businesses that you don't get a chance to stand up and see what's actually happening in the industry. So I'm going after world leaders in our industry across multiple industry sectors and countries to give you a truly aerial view of the industry. And what you'll love about this particular show and this series is that I chew the thin with an international legend in a raw and authentic interview. There's no editing, and I've really got no idea what the guest is going to say, so this could go anywhere. And with Chris Stevenson today, who knows where this will end up. So far, we've chatted with Mr. Retention Paul Brown, CEO of Les Mills APAC Ryan Hogan, the founder of Keep Me Ian Mullane, Escape Fitness founder Matthew Janusek, the founder of MyZone Dave Wright, and today we're going to be joined by Chris Stevenson, who I will introduce to you very shortly. If you've missed any of those previous shows, check them out on the Active Management YouTube channel. So I'm pretty stoked today to chew the thin with Chris. Chris is, well, I'm not sure he's an industry legend, but he's a good bloke, as we would say in Australia. He currently is a consultant in the industry, and he, like me, was a club owner, sold his clubs, and when you're an unemployed club owner, you become a consultant. Isn't that right, Chris?
Yeah, that's exactly the definition of a consultant. I actually learned that from you.
See, there's my consulting working to a T. So Chris really focuses a lot on customer service, and today we're going to sort of chew the thin around customer service and what that might look like moving forward. His expertise stems from his past hands-on experience of, as I said, owning a club, working in clubs, and his club for 20 years, Stevenson's Fitness, was he's a boutique club. Is that the right description?
Yeah, it's a boutique full service club. I think sometimes when we hear boutique, we think of one format. So we were, a smaller physical sized club, but we had everything from locker room, showers, childcare, group X, small group, personal training, and then general membership. So sort of a full service model packed into a little smaller space.
And the reason why customer service means so much to you is because you had astronomical NPS score. Rather than I brag for you, why don't you brag for yourself around your NPS?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And kind of how we got there was prior to the last club, the one that you were talking about. I had a small personal training only studio, and this was almost 20 years ago. And it was one of those where I was a personal trainer at the time, didn't necessarily have the business acumen that most owners have, but we just did a great job. We attracted similar people, came early, stayed late, and sort of never, intentionally said that we were trying to deliver a great experience. It was just in our DNA and who we were. So when we opened the bigger facility, that was one of the challenges posed by our investment group. They said, how are you going to keep that same vibe and that same happiness and everything, making people feel so good going into the bigger space? Because now you're going to be massively bigger with a ton of members. And so we kind of wore that as a badge of honor and took that on as our challenge. We said, we don't know, but we're going to figure out how to do it. So at that point, we knew then how important customer service was and that we had to systemize it. So as we did that with the staff, we always would say our goal is to have the best customer experience in the industry. Now, it's tough to quantify at times, right? So we were fortunate enough with the company TRP, the retention people, they partnered with URSA. I want to say it was 2016 or 7. It was a few years back, and did the first ever net promoter study for the fitness industry. So at the time, the average score in the UK was 22. Then they did it for all of North America, and the average score was, I believe, 41. And our score at the time was 77. So it was pretty incredible that all of a sudden we were quantified. We had the highest score in the study. So we could honestly say we do have the best experience in the industry. That really, it was easy to communicate to the staff. It gave us some real data that, hey, we really do have a good experience. And from there on out, it became our quest. And from 77, our next annual theme was go to 80. And then it was go to 85. And we got it up to the point where we were consistently in the 90s. So it was just something we systemized. We believed in it. Our mission, vision, values were wrapped around that. And I still to this day believe that a great experience is probably the biggest differentiator you can have in our industry.
And we might even talk about that in a kind of the middle of the interview, Chris, when we start talking about, what's our business look like now, and where does service actually fit into the business model? Have you seen? Forget it. We'll come back to that later. You're also on the board of URSA, and I read that you're on the board of the Customer Engagement Academy.
Yeah. So start with that.
Did you just make that up, or is that actually an academy?
No, I did, because the last time I presented, I didn't have enough bullets of credentials under my name. So I thought, I'm going to make something up and no one's ever going to check. And then here you go, actually fact checking and blowing my cover.
So because at Active Management, we don't do fake news.
I'm not even going to go there. I'll just get in trouble. But TRP, the same company, ended up putting together this board of directors for the Customer Engagement Academy, where we had access to studies and research and data. And then also I wrote content for them. So it was just a cool board to be on, and, in quantifying customer experience, because I think a lot of times that becomes one of those sort of nebulous topics, like, yeah, make people happy, make them feel good. Well, with TRP, we were able to get data and analytics and behavior patterns, and then say, okay, here's what the data says. How do we then systemize your team to deliver the right behaviors to then get people to act a certain way? So this is a very analytical situation that made it very concrete, which I think is powerful, right? The more concrete something is, the better. So that was with TRP, and I'm honored to be on that board. In addition, to be on the board of directors for URSA is incredible. I started presenting for URSA back in 2015 and started to do more, present at the URSA Institute, and just fell in love with the organization. They protect, promote, and grow our industry. And I think even currently right now, the efforts that they're putting in to do everything they can to help an industry that's really in trouble has been amazing. And I'm super proud to be a part of that. It's an incredible team, incredible members of the board. And it's just, I'm really blessed to be a part of that and a part of the effort to really help our industry.
And I do believe you're also a reasonably competitive young man as well. Is that true? You like to compete?
Is there some inside joke that's coming on this one?
Well, the word on the street is that there's a competition going on between you and Bill McBride to who can put on the most webinars during the COVID crisis, the COVID pandemic. It's game on between you and McBride. What is the current score?
So I don't know what the actual numbers are. I will say that Bill is definitely in the lead. So when I heard you go through the list of people who have already been a guest on this and you didn't mention his name, I got very excited. So at least gets me one step in catching up. And we've done several together, so at least that keeps us even. But I unfortunately think Bill is going to win in this one, but I think it's a pretty close race. But I will tell you, Bill's an awesome dude, and he's been an awesome friend and mentor, and I've learned a ton from Bill. So there's a reason that he should be on as many webinars as that he's on.
Mate, he is on every week on the Rex webinars, which anybody can jump on. I think Club Solutions and Rex Roundtables put together a webinar every single week and are continuing to do so to support the industry through these times. So they're great. The webinars are full of amazing content. They're great. They're worth checking out. But I guess that's how he racks up the score, and you're just the battler. Yeah,
it's true. I will tell you, those Wednesday webinars are fantastic. Between Brent Darden, Blair McCaney, and Bill, who are the regulars, and then they'll have different operators come on to share their experiences. It's always super practical. So kudos to Rex Roundtables and Club Solutions for putting together such tangible, actionable webinars. There's always great takeaways that you can actually implement.
Now, you have been on a number of webinars.
Yes.
Not as many as Bill, but you have been on a few.
Yeah.
So with the people that are sitting on those webinars and the fitness business family that you embrace and welcome, what's the psychology of the people? Like, where are you seeing owners, managers, staff? Where are you seeing, seeing them mentally at the moment? How are they doing?
It's challenging, and I hope this doesn't sound like a cop-out answer, but everything is so uncertain. It really is. And that's hard to deal with. Uncertainty leads to fear and anxiety and nervousness, and sometimes can lead to some paralysis with action, because since you don't know what's coming, you're not sure exactly what to do. And it's probably the most challenging situation that our industry has ever faced. And what I think so to get the negatives out of the way, I think we're going to lose 20 to 30% of the industry through this process. And that's terrible. And it's sad because our industry does such great things.
Now, when you say your gut feel is kind of that 20 to 30%, is your head thinking we're going to lose 20 to 30% of our workforce, of the bricks and mortar facilities, of personal trainers that aren't going to make it? Or is it the whole industry will actually shrink by 20 to 30%?
Yeah, I think we're going to lose 20 to 30% of operators. And I don't know what the percentage will lose as far as vendors go, but they're going to take a massive hit as well. And it's sad and it's terrible. But I just think that's the truth. It's just, you couldn't prepare for this one. And I think one of the really sort of devastating parts to that is it's nobody's fault. It's one thing at the end of the day if you screw up your operation with poor choices or not providing a good service, but it's a helpless feeling to know that, man, I did everything I could, but I didn't plan to be closed for 6 months. You know what I mean? So it's just a rough situation. So, I think that's the truth. And that's hard. But what I think the upside to that is, I don't think I've ever seen a time, and we have a very tight-knit industry in general. It's a good industry, but I've never seen an industry come together the way our industry has come together now. The things that URSA has done and the resources they've provided for everybody has been above and beyond. The different webinars with Rex and Club Solutions and SCW with Sarah. First of all, I don't know how Sarah somehow does 3 webinars a week and live stream manias. I literally texted her one day, said, "You are the hardest working woman in showbiz." So kudos to her. And, I was teasing a little bit, but I'm also serious. I mean, you just see all these organizations turn things around and give everything they've got. And I'm sure they're all individually stressed as well. So that was uplifting. I heard I don't remember which webinar on, because again, I'm on so many as just watching and then also on them as a presenter. But I remember hearing it was a CEO of a major chain in the US that said, "I never thought I'd see the day I'd be sitting across the table from one of my major, most fierce competitors working together." So I just think that, in the face of such a dark time in our industry where there will be some casualties, it has been inspiring to see the way how everybody has come together to help each other, to share best practices. Here's what worked. Here's what didn't work. Let's get together and put some lobbying efforts together and form regional coalitions and all of these things. That part has been really inspiring.
I think, from my observations around the world, the industry has actually dropped the political ball and they've played the game of working together as an industry. We're not politicizing brand A versus brand B. We're just going, no, as an industry, we need to come together. Do you think the mental health of owners and GMs is being stretched at the moment?
100%. And just before talking a little bit more about that, and this is one of the hardest things that I personally have to do, and that's give you a compliment, because that physically hurts me to say something nice about you. But I'm sure many of the people that are watching this, when you put together that awareness campaign with the exercises, gyms are safe, exercise is medicine, and for a couple of days the whole industry came together under that, I thought that was a really good sense of unity, because in our industry and people watching this, I think there's sort of 2 groups, right? Where one is the group who does go to URSA, the group who does listen to the fitness podcast. And I think that's a smaller group, and we need to expand that group. But that particular campaign, I had friends that had no idea. First of all, just the general public was supporting and sharing it, that loved to exercise. But it was a great way to get more people aware and involved. And again, to tie back into the industry coming together, I think we're seeing more people understand just how important it is to be politically active and to come together and to show the world how important what we do is. I think that's important. But yeah, back to the mental health and the of general managers and operators and owners. Of course, it's being stretched, especially with the unknowns that are going on. I'm looking at notes right now, but I wrote this down for you. So you want to talk about crazy and unknown, right? So California closed on March 17th, all clubs. They opened on June 15th. On July 1st, they were now all required to wear masks and gloves at all times in facilities. On July 11th, they got rid of gloves. So now July 11th, no gloves, just masks. And now July 13th, they're closed again. Clubs in the Bay Area, San Jose, San Francisco, I got a friend who has a club up there, opened today or yesterday, and then was told, oh, you got to close. So they finally get to open and they got to close. That's the kind of stress that owners and operators are in. And that's their staff too. Yeah. There's just, I mean, that is a crazy schedule and now we don't know how we don't know how long it's going to be closed this time. So it's just, that kind of stress is just incredibly challenging to deal with when there is just so much unknown and so much is riding on being open and operating at a high level. It's crazy. On that note too, and you know him as well, Jason Stokes has a great club up in New York State, which, by the way, in New York, they've never opened. And there is word on the street, and I hope this is not true, that they may not open until 2021. So imagine dealing with that. But what he did, and kudos to Jason, he's a great guy. He did sort of an employee wellness event. He brought in a behavioral therapist who sat down with his entire staff, did a presentation, and then a massive Q&A. And he said it uncovered a lot of things where they had the chance to voice, COVID did affect me because my grandmother had it, or it hasn't affected me, but I'm nervous, or here's what I'm worried about. I feel guilty about spray. So it brought out a lot of concerns. And he said his staff was so appreciative. And I can't remember if he said it was $200 or $300, which in the grand scheme of things is not a ton of money. He said it's some of the best money he's ever spent as an operator. So I think, and to your point of stress, especially from the leadership position, we've got to manage our own stress. But with your staff, you got to be empathetic. I think we got to be empathetic with the members, and we're doing all this to protect members. A lot of your staff feels the same way, and you got to be empathetic and transparent. And again, in a world of uncertainty, the more certainty you can give them, the better. So when your staff reaches out to you and says, hey, what about this? What about this? Even if you don't know, get back quickly, never leave them hanging, give them the confidence that you're there for them. Even if the answer is, we don't know, we're following it, we'll update you all the time. So I think, with the stress, it's provide as much certainty as you can and communicate often and transparently with your entire team.
Yeah, I really worry, Chris, that as owners or CEOs, I really worry that we take for granted that our team are bulletproof and not actually spending that $300. Shit, $300. That's bugger all money.
Yeah. And I think you're right. And I think this, independent of COVID, when I've had a chance to consult with clubs all over the world, I do see, and there should be a term for it, but it's where leaders in their position, they get there because they're spectacular. Oftentimes they don't need pats on the back. They're just driven. It's just who they are. They're wired, they're competitive, and they just go, and they're fearless, right? So they have that expectation because they realize that's how they are. They expect all of their staff to be bulletproof, to be the same way. And that's just not it. Staff is not invested at the same level. They're often younger, and, with health clubs, sometimes it's a transitional job. So the staff is not bulletproof. They need more no hugs in this era, but more, no pats on the backs either. More high five. Okay. They just need verbal support from 6 feet away. No, but they need the hey, we really appreciate it. Hey, I feel you. So put yourself in your staff's shoes, realize they are not you and they don't operate the same way, and realize that, and just take care of them, because the more you take care of them, the better they're going to take care of your members. That's just the chain of how it works. If you don't take care of your staff and make them feel empowered and safe and they trust you, they're not going to enforce the new policies. They're not going to do things with members. They're going to hide behind the desk. And that just can't happen in this situation.
So before we talk about the new policies and the service standards, which is, of course, where we want to head next, you are across the United States. You gave some examples of California and New York. I mean, I love the US. It's a great place to visit. It's a shit show at the moment, with every state having different rules, different guidelines. You've got an election coming up. So your country is in a real state of flux on so many levels. Does the fitness industry just blend into that flux? Do we stand out? Do we have to just go with the flow? What's your thoughts there?
So it is a really interesting point. And so California has been very specific in their guidelines, as have other states. And then I have a friend who has a club in Wisconsin that we've worked with. I have a friend who has a club in Ohio that we've worked with. And I said, so what do the guidelines look like? And they're like, I don't know. So some states are not giving any guidelines. Some go all the way down to the county, where the county will give guidelines. It really is, unfortunately, all over the place. As much as, we'd love for it to be, and by the way, in certain ways, that's the beauty of the US, that you have local freedoms to make decisions, because Manhattan is certainly different than Cleveland, Ohio, which is certainly different than San Jose. So, between population density and so many different factors, right? You do need to have some latitude, but at the same time, obviously the latitude is creating a lot of inconsistency. So that is a problem to some extent. And then you have a variety of club owners. Like I said before, there's people that listen to JT in the Raw and go to URSA and attend webinars, who are dialed in and doing everything right. And then there's a percentage of our industry who just, there's a percentage that doesn't know that they don't know.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, right? And then there's a percentage that doesn't care. They're in here to try to make as much money as possible. They don't care about service or people. And there's that group as well, right? So given the fact that people are all over the place, I think the thing to note is whether or not there's guidelines, organizations like URSA and, I almost gave you a second compliment. I guess I'll do it. The active management page. First of all, another kind of inspiring moment is it's always been a great page. So for those that don't know the active management page, it's a private Facebook group with a bunch of great industry leaders and club owners and operators, and they just share information. And sometimes you get these private groups that are more sales-based and that sort of thing. Justin's done a good job of saying you're not allowed to sell. This is for information share or for you to ask questions. So if you're not a member of that page, make sure you join it. But during this whole crisis, I don't know how many new members you gathered through the crisis, but everybody has been helping everybody. And it's just been an incredible, incredible asset. But sort of back to the point, people that do follow all the awesome guidelines URSA's given out, or that they find on active management or some of the other webinars, they're the ones that are going to survive. So guidelines or not, they're the ones that are going to make it, and the clubs that don't, won't. So my buddy with the club in Wisconsin, his name is Jacob Thomas. Their biggest competitor near them already closed, so they didn't make it. And they had no guidelines, but they still chose to do the right thing. So they had a reservation system for people just to work out, to limit people, spacing of the equipment, cardio, and just did everything the right way, the disinfectants, everything. And they are now becoming established in their market. And Jason's done a great job of being the club who does things right, that does it right by you. So as these people who aren't doing a good job start to fall, you become that club. So whether there's guidelines or not, URSA, Active Man, you have all these other people giving you guidelines, right? Follow them. Do what's right, because at the end of the day, if you do that, you will still be standing when this is over, and you'll be able to have that opportunity to pick up all the members who now have nowhere to go.
Now, most of those guidelines kind of revolve around the cleaning side of things, or the sanitization, as we now call it, because we've got to go to 11 out of 10 in cleaning, so we've got to come up with a new word. So, you're a strong proponent of service in clubs and in PT businesses, studios, etc. If we take cleaning for granted, if we take that every club is going to be cleaning and 11 out of 10 clean, what's the new service level look like then? What service standards are we going to see from clubs moving forward as we reopen, understanding cleaning is going to just be part of the course? Is there going to be any other moving piece around service?
Yeah, I believe so. And a couple of things to note. Agreed that cleaning is now the new standard, period. And that's not going away even when this mess is over. Now your gym can't go back to being dirty, right? And gyms, by the way, in the general public, people think of gyms as dirty, right? And that's another problem that we have. That will never change. I do think that social distancing, that's going to change. We'll be able to get closer and have more people in class. That eventually will level off and be fine. You're right. Cleaning is always going to be there. But, in some of these clubs that I've talked to, and, obviously retrospect looking backwards does nothing right now. But I guarantee you the clubs that focused on experience and building real relationships and truly taking care of their members, putting members first prior to COVID, are going to come out stronger because they've already built the levels of trust. People believe in what they do, so it's easier to come back. If you just went to a gym because it was convenient, but it was kind of dirty and a little sloppy and wasn't, they weren't super friendly, you don't trust them to begin with. Now, let alone the thought of going back to a gym where you don't believe you didn't believe in them to start with, that's going to be challenging. So again, that doesn't do the listener any good to say, hey, you better have been doing a good job before, but do keep that in mind moving forward. A great experience gets you through crisis better than if your members don't care about you. I think, from an experience standpoint, communication has always been crucial, but it's going to be more crucial. So I believe that you're going to want to communicate more often to your members. You're going to want to be transparent, and you're going to want to use multiple methods. They're going to want to see a video. They're going to want to read it in a newsletter. So if you did the once a month newsletter, you're sending out twice a month, and you're always updating them on what you're doing to make the facility safe, clean, effective, so you just want to communicate often and more because, again, people are going to feel more comfortable hearing from you more.
Sorry, Chris, do you think club newsletters are going to have a resurgence?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and I think now you're going to want to, every single one is going to put in new protocols. You're going to continually update. I mean, as times change, I mean, right now we're still up and down, but as restrictions start to lift, you're going to let people know on a regular basis. This is your, weekly or bi-weekly update of here's where we're at. Things like calling members, I think, is going to be very important. So you're tasking out, you take your membership base, task out who's going to make the calls, and it's simple courtesy calls, not sales calls, just saying, hey, we're just checking in. We care about you. We notice you've been in several times. Is everything good? Anything we can answer for you? I think those things are going to become, that personal touch is going to become more essential overall. That kind of ties into daily interactions in general. People coming back in this COVID era are going to be a little skeptical. So the warm welcome has never been more important than it is now. The fond farewell has never been more important. And by the way, those are from Luke Carlson at Discover Strength. He loves alliteration. Warm welcome, fond farewell.
I think you'll find he got that from the Ritz-Carlton.
I believe that. I actually thought about changing it to great greeting, just so I didn't have to quote Luke every time, but warm welcome sounded better. Right. But, those type of things, owning questions is going to be huge. So doing things for people instead of simply instructing them. So when a member says, where are your TRX straps? Let me get it for you. Let me sanitize that for you. Let me escort you to the locker room. Those sort of things are going to become more important. Using people's names is more important than it's ever been. Names personalize an experience. They create a real relationship. They make people feel safe. So all of those like normal engagement strategies, which are always important, are going to be more important because they create comfort. A warm welcome means it was a good decision to come in today. We're glad you're here.
Yeah.
Right. That fond farewell, same thing. When are we going to see you again? We'd love for you to come back. So those normal stuff that I present when it's just a normal customer experience are going to be even more crucial now. Because imagine walking in with no greeting, skeptical, no instruction, nobody helping you, guiding you, doing anything. And then I do recommend that you treat it like a restaurant. So know your peak times. And during those peak times, whether you're a general manager in a leadership position, your only job is to be on your floor helping your team because they need to see that support and love from you. And then being there for the members to answer questions and say, hey, I'm right out here in front. We believe in what we're doing. Come on in. So I like the restaurant sort of philosophy. I do think you're going to want to look at your offerings as part of the experience because virtual, I don't think is going anywhere. And virtual is going to be a great option. So those of you who love some, hey, we flipped the switch, lights are back on, no more virtual, I think you're mistaken. You can keep people engaged. Some people will want to simply continue to do virtual. So maybe they feel comfortable coming in and doing some cardio, but not in your group X, even with the distancing. You want to keep those virtual things at a high quality. I think outdoor offerings are going to be huge. And I think they should stay. The club there's a club locally that we've done some work with who, when it shut down, did outside exercise and they did it in parking spots. So everybody had their own station. So it's perfectly socially distant, right? Really effective. And it looks good. It looks safe. When I told her, I said, listen, in case you get closed again, keep doing those. But also you're going to have some people who just don't feel comfortable going inside yet. Keep the outdoor classes as an option because they love you, the instructor. But they're like, but geez, I just don't feel good being inside. Give them that outdoor option. So I think exploring and maintaining outdoor options. And plus, there's some fun to it, right? Even for gym goers who love being in there, it's fun to work out outside. So there are going to be people who just want to continue to do that. So give them that option. Don't make them go do it somewhere else or on their own. And then you can kind of customize things. A great idea from the NAC, the Newtown Athletic Club. Masks are not mandated, but they created mask only workout areas. So if you feel like you'd like to have a mask and be around other people with masks, here's a small area that we put together just for that.
Clever idea.
Yeah, and for sure that was Kate Golden.
Oh, for sure.
For sure. The sanitation czar. For sure that was her. But I mean, all jokes aside, that's a phenomenal idea on a way to make people feel comfortable. And by the way, if you don't want a mask, then you go in the other area.
Yeah.
So, coming up with clever ways to diversify your offerings to give something for everybody. So if they don't feel comfortable in a certain way, you can do that.
The only problem with that is that the NAC, that other area, is probably the size of our average gym anyway.
Right. So yeah, in a smaller club, it might be a little more challenging, but get creative and use those ideas, scale it to your thing. I think one thing, and again, this is a non-COVID issue, but there are a group of people now who bought a treadmill at home and got adjustable dumbbells and put in little workout facilities in their garage or their basement. So they might be of the mindset, you know what, even though the gym was cool, I really can do this stuff at home, right? So I think you have to make sure that you make people want to come to you and understand why they do need you. Because at the surface level, I could run outside, I could do push-ups and basic dumbbell stuff in my garage, and I could download MyFitnessPal, right? And I could technically be healthy. So you have to do a good job of, and obviously we provide the motivation, the accountability, the safe socialization at this point and all that. But you really have to do a good job of making sure, here's why you need to come here. And you want to get them involved in multiple aspects of your facility. So if they do like the outdoor workouts, they do that. And then they also do use the weight room. So the more they do different things at your club, the more loyal they become. If they're only coming to you to basically use a treadmill and dumbbells, even in a regular time, they're not going to do it. And so many people have got accustomed to that. You got to make sure that you're always creating that need. And that comes through a great experience that people are like, I just got to go there. I just really got to go there. And then I think kind of the last piece in the experience thing, and this is key, but because there are some unknowns, we make assumptions. And I've told everybody I've worked with, whether it's webinars or consulting or whatever, I said, listen, be okay that you're not going to know 25%. Keep your head on a swivel. 75% of all the stuff you've learned and studied will be effective in some way, but be okay that you're going to walk and be like, oh my God, we didn't even think of that. And then act on it, right? But given that, you want to survey your members. And I know that Blair McCaney's done a great job, doing the reopening surveys and the Now We're Reopened survey. I don't think that's what it's called, but something like that. But those are the kind of things you want to do. You want to ask your members what they want for two reasons. One, you get great information, but two, in a time where members are uncertain and they're getting used to sort of this new normal and you want to keep them coming, you're letting them know, hey, you do have a voice. So simply by sending a survey sends a message that we actually care what you think. And then you get valuable data. It allows you to respond to people, interact, build better relationships, show them that you care. So I think that, you're going to do those, whether they're Blair surveys or you create your own, the Net Promoter surveys, and then just kind of live action surveys. I would, at part of that restaurant theory, be on the floor. And when people are leaving, say, how was your experience today? Anything we could have helped you with? Anything you needed? Everything good? So just those live, one-on-one interactions to gather that data from people. So I think data acquisition and then utilizing that data, don't guess when you can ask and find out really how members feel and what they want. I think that's kind of that final experience piece.
Now, while you were talking then, I was jotting some notes down. I wasn't surfing the net. I wasn't not forward in what you were saying. I've actually written some really interesting things down, and I want to work backwards from where you finished, go back to where you started. So first thing is, when you were talking about that restaurant experience, and you said, how was your workout today, or how was your experience today? I think it's really important for people that are watching this to listen really closely to the tone of your voice when you ask that question. Because I know we were just role playing, or you were role playing it, for want of a better description, as an example. But I was sucked in. I'm like, the tone in your voice indicated that you genuinely care about the answer that I'm about to give.
Yeah, authenticity is key, right? I mean, if you can't fake that stuff. And the other thing I would recommend is you got to be confident, right? You got to be confident that you've done the right stuff, that this is a safe place to be, that you are taking care of members. So when you, yeah, you're right. And when you ask in that tone, say, how was your experience today? If you ask like, how was your experience today? That people are going to believe this person's not even confident about what they do.
So we really need to make sure we got to role play that with our team and practice and train them and have them understand the aerial view of asking that question, and then go right down into the granular of why we're asking it and what we're trying to get. Love that. I'm inspired, Chris, for people as owners to admit it's okay not to know 25%. I think that's a great percentage. I think that's a great phrase. Love that. And I would sum up, when you were talking about virtual, outside, that really gyms are outside the four walls moving forward.
100%. And you're either going to embrace that and you're going to end up winning, or you're going to stay with the old ways, which aren't going to work anymore. I mean, it's funny. The COVID thing just accelerated it. It was happening.
Yeah.
Right. More apps. MyZone's a great example, right? Great product. We're all addicted to MyZone. I don't feel like I'm ever going to get in the Hall of Fame, but I'm going to keep trying. But MyZone allows you to be connected. So you go on vacation and I can still, as a club owner, studio owner, manager, see that, oh, Justin was on vacation. I know he's there, and interact with him. So it's like my gym is now interacting with me on the road. So that outside the wall connectivity was already happening, but this just accelerated it, because for a while it was all we had. Now, like, California's reclosed and Arizona's reclosed, New York's still not open. It's still all we have. So you're either going to embrace that and you're going to build those real relationships and keep people connected, or you're going to lose them.
And there's no need to be shitty with the people that have bought all that home gym equipment, because in reality, they still need a program. So if you're the local gym, you could be doing your virtual personal training with them in their basement, writing them a program that they can follow, that they can come in and have their in-body assessment in the club once every 6 or 8 weeks. So I loved what you said about, changing your offerings and being adaptive around those offerings.
Yeah, and embrace it, right? Most people fear it. Most people are like, well, if I give you a virtual workout, you're never going to come back. People that want the face-to-face experience will always come back. There might be a group of people who never feel, or for a while won't feel comfortable. Now you're still meeting them where they want to be. And then there'll be some people who never want to step foot in a gym, but hear about your great virtual offering. They're like, but I could do that. So and by the way, I do believe with virtual, there is some good pre-shot stuff, whether it's classes or pre-trained, but I still think my gut feeling is it's going to be streaming. They want to see their instructor. They want to see the trainer that they know doing it, rather than some random person. So I think that's going to be something clubs want to focus on.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Interesting. I've got a Rex member in Philly, and her CrossFit box, I mentioned the C word, CrossFit box, they actually drag all their stuff out of the box. Which child is that?
That's Adam. Do you want to say hi real quick? This is recorded and this is going to go out, but just at least say hi and then. Okay.
Adam, this is a very important interview.
Yes, very important interview. Goodbye. Thank you.
They bring all their CrossFit stuff out onto the sidewalk. So they've got the assault bikes on the sidewalk. They've got so they do the whole workout there and then drag it back into the club afterwards. But I want to go to one quick thing, and that is you're chatting with the staff and staff engaging with members. So in the club that I go to, they have upped that level of cleaning, like we talked about. Problem is, while the staff are wandering around cleaning, they're not actually talking to the members. So the perception is the place is clean, but there's still no community because the staff are focusing with blinkers on cleaning. This is a great opportunity for them to actually engage with members while they're out on the floor.
Yeah, and I think there's two ways to ensure that happens. One is I always, at clubs that I've run and clubs that I've worked with, we implement something called the world stops. And what that means is when you're within now 6 feet of a member or 2 meters or whatever you guys say over there, they become the focus. So if you're cleaning, you stop. you engage, you have the conversation, whatever that interaction looks like, and then you go back to your task. That's what the world stops is. Secondly, it's the leader's responsibility, because sometimes, especially now, where staff is a little worried and concerned, how close can I get, and should I talk to this person? What should I do? It's your job as a leader to say, hey, here's what I want you to do. Give me the spray bottle and towel. I'll go ahead and wipe myself down. What I want you to do is go find 4 members and introduce yourself and see if they need anything. So as a leader, don't forget, you've got to direct, because you as a leader, like you and myself, we're generally, we probably talk too much, right? So we're always, hey, how are you? How are you? But your staff's not you. So in saying, hey, here's what I want, specific, right? I want you to go out there, talk to 4 people, make sure they know your name, you know their name, and find out if there's anything they need and anything we can do for them, okay? And then come back to me. So you want to give that direction, and then just constantly reinforce that the world stops. Members always come first.
It's taken a while, but you've just dropped a golden nugget. No, I'm only taking the piss. You've given a lot of gold so far today, but the world stops is a terrific little phrase that every club, no matter the size of the club, could roll out tomorrow with some staff training. They could do that tomorrow.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, it's none of this costs money. It's just invest, because we're all very cash conscious right now. So it's just a little extra time with your staff and saying, hey, here's what we want to focus on. Here's why it's important. Here's the impact it'll have. And this is exactly how I need you to do it. Can I help you with it? Do you have any questions? And role play. Make sure they feel comfortable with it.
So Chris, this is my thought, and you're the expert in this area, so I'm going to be really interested to see what you think. I think there's a lot of clubs around the world where people pay their membership, but it's not really membership. They're just paying to rent equipment every week or twice a week or even once a month. I'm paying to rent that equipment, so I want to be able. So that equipment has got to be clean. It's got to be working because I'm paying to rent it. But what I'm getting the feeling is, as we come out of this, and from what you've said, it's actually now about a membership to a club, but which is, it's kind of what we said we were, but we weren't really delivering that. Am I too facetious in my view, or am I accurate?
No, I think you're right. And at the end of the day, again, as I said before, you can technically get healthy or fit outside of a club. It's just science. I mean, that's what it is. Again, I sometimes I'll say that presenting, and then as the audience gets horrified, I'm like, guys, I'm obviously exaggerating to make a point. They do need us. But remember what they really need us for. They don't need us for that treadmill, because A, they can get a treadmill at any gym. They'll just find the cleanest one. Or they've possibly put one at home. They need us for the interaction. They need us for the motivation, the inspiration. They need us for all the extra little things that we do on the experience front, for all the ancillary programming, for the accountability. They need us. That's what we have to remind ourselves. And for the relationship. So outside of all those things that they just can't get at home, we have to remind them that we're the only place they can get it. It is the relationship aspect, right? And so as an example, if you talk to, we always call it a welcome desk as opposed to a front desk, because front just says where it is. We'd rather it be called what you do, right? So that in itself sends a message to your staff.
So it should actually be the warm welcome desk.
Right, the warm welcome desk, right? And they'll put a little signature by Luke Carlson, like a fancy thing. So in conversations with that, telling them the importance of relationships and why people come in, and when they come in, they get healthier. And if you're doing that warm welcome and fond farewell and using their name, and you have great body language and eyes and teeth and this great impression, you might be the one reason they keep coming back, right? So, that's what people want. They want to feel special. They want to be treated right. They deserve to be treated right. They deserve good, friendly, high levels of service. And kind of back to the point about the world stops, and I'm probably just saying that again because you thought it was such a good nugget. But I think one way our company evolved, our last club, was we were always friendly. But you got to take it to that level of an attitude of service. So the world stops is that, because let's say you and I are working the welcome desk and we're just chatting, and then somebody walks in and we look over and we smile. We're like, hey, it's good to see you, man. Have a great workout. Versus the world actually stops and our conversation ceases and we turn and we give that. Then now it's professional, it's high quality service, it's high end, and still friendly in that. So friendly in this environment is no longer good enough, right? It's got to be
friendly is no longer good enough.
no, friendly plus a high level attitude of service, professionalism. That's the secret formula.
I love that. 2 golden nuggets in about 3 minutes. You're on fire. Now, hardest thing is to even contemplate what the future looks like. Because the uncertainty. But if you could graze, how about just gaze? Don't worry about grazing. If you could gaze into your crystal balls, would you be bold enough, sir, to make a couple of predictions?
I would absolutely do that, because the good thing about predictions is you can be wrong and no one holds you accountable because they were just a prediction, right?
Great
No,
way.
I think
Namaste.
Namaste. I think the first one is kind of the grim one, but I think it's important to recognize reality. People survived through the closures, and I actually believe there was a little bit, not that everybody was happy to be closed, but there's a little novelty to it, right? Like, oh my God, stay at home. I'm going to do a puzzle and virtual happy hour. And, there's a little bit of novelty. I'm going to work on my business, not in my business. Well, that novelty wore off. But, people like in the States had the payroll protection loans, and they had these different sort of resources to help them, right? So I think then you get excited, and you're also spending all your time preparing to reopen, which you have to do with the new protocols, and you're creating manuals and member oaths, and all these things are important and essential. Then you actually open, right? And then all of a sudden the payroll protection runs out, and now you're running lean on cash. So I unfortunately think we're going to see a lot more closures up to the end of the year. So that's the first sort of gloom and doom thing. I just think those resources run out, and gyms a lot of times aren't high margin businesses. So let's say you're running your club at a 20% margin and you're only operating at 70% of what your capacity was. Those numbers just don't work. So, understand that's going to be in, I think, for the rest of this year, maybe into Q1 of next year. That's when we'll really see the fallout. We've seen clubs close, but I don't think we've seen a majority of the fallout that's going to happen. And it's terrible, and it's sad, and it stinks. Now, as we get further along to continue to predict the future, we're going to see a ton of innovation. That's exciting. With the clubs that do a good job and do make it, they're going to thrive, because they're going to be able to pick up people that are now looking for new clubs, because unfortunately their old facilities didn't make it. So you are going to see the growth, that you're going to see less clubs in the market, but they're going to have the potential to be even bigger than they were prior to COVID. And again, the innovation of virtual is going to be huge. The innovation of outdoor fitness is going to be massive, which is cool. It's going to add variety. It's going to have fun. It's going to mix things up. I think streaming is going to be massive. Obviously, cleaning will forever stand. Eventually we'll be able to stand closer to each other, but that's not going to be for a while. So you're going to see kind of that shift. And then I think, and this is what I hope, and this is something that Urs is really, really big on, we need to change the image of our industry. And I'm hoping that in the future we do that, because this was a great thing that Alan Leach told me. We were having a conversation. Well, it wasn't great. It was actually grim, but he was right on. In the US, and I'm not sure what the penetration rates are in Australia, but 18 to 20% of the population belongs to a club. So Alan,
We're about the same.
Yeah. So Alan had this great analogy. He goes, so let's say you've got 10 lawmakers sitting around a table deciding what's open and what's closed. All 10 go to pubs. All 10 go to restaurants. All 10 go to retail stores. But chances are, based on just the straight up numbers, only 2 of them go to fitness facilities. So of course, we're not going to get the same rights that these other things are going to get. And that's terrible, because when you look at everything I just mentioned, we add the most value. Exercise is medicine. Matter of fact, in the COVID situation, the healthier you are, the better you're going to deal with it if you were to contract it. But most people don't realize it. I think too much of the population still sees us as, oh, get skinny. Oh, it's a meat market. Oh, car salesman sell me a membership. Oh, it's dirty. Oh, bodybuilder. Right? They don't see it as a place to get healthy and well and function better and to lose back pain. They don't see us as wellness. And I think, Ursa has a lot of initiatives to change that, which I love supporting and helping with. But we do need to elevate the integrity of the industry. And again, I'm not saying that it's bad. I'm just saying the perception, I think overall, from the 80% of people, they're like, why do people say I'm not a gym person? Because obviously they don't associate gym. But if you said, are you into being healthy? They would say, absolutely. So if they looked at gyms as places to get healthy, who wouldn't be a part of that? So I think, that's where I hope this whole crisis and pandemic takes us to, is realizing all of us as operators and leaders and everybody in this industry, we need to do our best to, be the clubs that do everything right with following guidelines, be the clubs that do right the way we treat our members and create a high level experience, be the people who give more than expected, be the people who do more educating and just saying, this is what this really does for you. So, what I would like to see, and then I don't know that we'll, ever fully merge with the medical field or anything like that, but just to be more associated with, listen, this is about longer lives. This is about less disease. This is about feeling healthier. This is about being happier. And I think when people see a gym as that, as opposed to, oh, I go there to get skinny or get cut or get big or get hit on, then our industry is going to change. So that's the future that I would like to see. And then I do think, and a lot of people that I talk to and speak with in our great industry, the board of directors of IRSA, members and people in the active management community, I think more and more people are now starting to see things that way. So I'm hoping that, a year or two down the road, we start to be viewed as a little bit more the industry that we truly are. And that's an industry that changes people's lives for the better.
Couple of thoughts on that final prediction. I think the first thing we need to do as an industry is we need to take back from every media outlet those stock photos of gyms that are there, because you see an article on a gym and there's a particularly augmented female generally that would melt in front of a fire because she's so made of plastic. And that just continues to propagate what gyms are, but are not really. So we need to retract every single image that the media have of gyms and send them a whole bunch of normal people place.
Yeah, I think that's a funny point, because we ran at our last club, we ran a thing called Just Lose It, and it was a 6-week weight loss program. We survey in the middle of it, we survey at the end of it, so that way we can alter the program if people aren't happy. And then at the end, we get feedback for the next program. But anyway, our first one was sort of that stock photo image, and it was Just Lose It. And our demographic was, 40 to 60-year-old. I think 55% were female at the club in general. And one of the feedback at the end of the program was, I didn't like your poster. It didn't motivate me. I didn't feel like that was me. And we didn't do it intentionally. We just thought, hey, there's a pretty person. And they weren't super over the top, but it was fit. And so the next one, we switched to what one would consider just a normal person. And I mean that with all due respect. Yeah. Wasn't a super fit person, but it looked like the type of person who would sign up and really benefit for a program like that. And we had much better results. So that marketing thing, I think you hit the nail on the head, is market to who needs to come in the door. And sometimes that marketing turns people off. But I think you're absolutely right. Shoot, that's sort of a third compliment, man.
And the other question I've got, thank you. The other question that I've got for you, and I guess this is the last question, is when you were talking about that, you were talking a lot about help, a place where people come to get healthy. Do we drop the word wellness and do we just focus on a place? You don't come here to get well, you come here to get healthier.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting question. I think, like the word gym, and that's part of our industry, and I don't mean this with disrespect, but when you hear the word gym, you tend to think I'm a gym person or I'm not, right? It doesn't seem inclusive. So we tended to switch to the word club because everyone wants to be a part of a club. I think the verbiage is important. Now, I don't know that we change, or even fit sometimes is I'm either fit or I'm not, right? But health is a good thing. I think wellness can be confusing, even though we understand what it means and how important it is. But so what is wellness? It's also super broad. That's getting sleep, that's stress management, that's communication skills, that's mindfulness.
No one talks about that. Like if you're standing around the water cooler, you're not going, so, are you feeling wellness lately?
Right. Are you feel healthy? You feel good?
Yeah. So
I definitely think it does boil down to the marketing and the way we're portrayed in the industry, because we're so much more. We're so much more than a place to lift weights and get fit. And I think as an industry, this thing has brought us to that point where I think everybody gets that and realizes that our messaging has to really reflect what we're actually doing. And when that happens, then that's when we're going to see that 20% go to 25 to 30 and hopefully even higher than that. But at the end of the day, tough times, we will get through it. That's cliche and cheesy to say, but and we will be stronger for it. Another cliche thing, but like for those that make it through, and there will be a bunch that do, we'll be stronger for it. We'll be better for it. We'll be cleaner for it. We'll understand our industry better. We'll be a bit more innovative. So with all darkness comes some light at the end, and we're going to see that. And I think our industry is going to be better for it once this is all said and done.
And we know in our industry, to get stronger, you have to work to a fatigue point anyway. So you can't do any more, and then you bounce back stronger. It's going to be great. I'm so excited. Now, if anybody wants to get in contact with you for whatever reason, how would they do that?
You can always email me at chris@stevensonempowers.com. That's CHRIS at STEVENSONEMPOWERS.com, or the website is stevensonempowers.com. And then on all the social media handles, it's something Chris Stevenson. So, whether that's Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram and Twitter, just search Chris Stevenson and I'll pop up.
Will you pop up TikTok?
If you haven't, yeah.
Does Chris Stevenson TikTok?
So Chris Stevenson has a TikTok, but he's never TikToked. He doesn't really understand it. So Justin, I can offer advice in the areas of, customer experience and sales and market, all those different cool areas, leadership, but not technology. That's the one thing. If Justin ever has something, he's like, we have exciting technology expert, Chris Stevenson, he's gone off the deep end, because that's the one area where, no. I mean, I have my kids help me sometimes, figure stuff out, but not me.
You have learned over the last, whatever it was, I think you said March 17 on closure in California. You've learned how to use Zoom. You've done a great job. You haven't hit mute once. You do a terrific presentation and conversation today, mate. I really appreciate all your time today. I think people are going to walk away. There were numerous golden nuggets, but some real practical stuff too that I think people can look at implementing and bringing into the culture of the business. Even if they're closed now, they can still be working on the business in some way, shape or form. So thank you so much for joining us today for show 6 of the aerial view of the fitness industry. I always let my guests give a final comment to motivate, to inspire. Have you got anything?
Yeah, I mean, again, even in dark times, remind yourself or take a moment to sit back and think, we do work in the best industry in the world. Very few industries get to change people's lives for the better on a daily basis. Remember your purpose. Remember why what you do is so important. And that's what's going to help drive you when things do get a little tough and a little challenging. When you have that sense of purpose and really understand the difference that you make. At the end of the day, people give you some money, which is great. But what you do is you help them be healthier. And when they're healthier, or they're leaner, or they feel like they look better, their self-esteem improves, their energy goes up, they get sick less, they sleep better. Literally, you make every and then their relationships get better. They're better at work. You make people better, and never forget that. It's worth the challenge. It's worth the struggle. We'll be stronger for it. And I just look forward to the next time we can all be together in person somewhere and doing this stuff live. And I think one final thought, most importantly, is I just want to tell Justin, I really appreciate you having me as a guest before you had Bill McBride.
It was a pleasure having you way before Bill McBride. Way before. He's much further down the We're going to get an email from Bill McBride within about 24 hours asking to be on show 7. So great having you, Chris. Thanks so much for all your insights. Cheers, mate.
Cheers.